Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the Champion, all right? We're going to talk about the first issue of the Champion, the first appearance of the Champion. This is going to be in a Marvel 2-in-1 annual, all right? Now, Marvel 2-in-1 is one of those comics that it kind of came out and it was supposed to have two main heroes in it, minimum of two main heroes. And for the most part, especially during this time, it was mostly The Thing. Now, this was back in 1992. October of 1992 is actually when this was released. Mind you, this is an annual issue, not one of the regular monthly issues. But basically, The Thing, Ben Grimm, he is back in 1982. Geez, the best way I can honestly describe him is Wolverine. All right, not that he schnicked and started killing people. No. He was the guy who was in multiple comics, and everybody just wanted to see him. Like Spider-Man and Wolverine of today. He crosses over multiple comics. That was the Thing back then. They tried to have it be the Human Torch. They did it for the most part with Spider-Man, but the Thing was actually where it was at back then, even more so than the Hulk. That's no joke. So he was in this comic. He was in the Fantastic Four comics. He was all over the place. Anytime they could have some kind of a crossover with the Thing, they would jump at the opportunity. He was big money at the time, had his own cartoon series at the time. Now, the time that this particular comic book came out, that October of 1982, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was actually still on the air at that time. I wrote a couple notes here for a couple other things that were out. Avengers issue number 224 was out at that time. That was way back in the Avengers when Hank Pym supposedly killed Egghead. All right, this was the trial of Hank Pym. This particular issue wasn't. He was already in prison at around this time, and Egghead, he faked his death, came with his version of the Masters of Evil. Said, hey man, I'm going to break you out and you're going to join my team because nobody else likes you, So, and he was like, okay, I guess. And it's just a big elaborate thing. But that was actually a big deal at the time. That's how old this story is. A couple other stories around this time. X-Men number 164 came out about this time. This is when they were battling the Brood. Wolverine Volume 1. This was that 4-issue miniseries. All right, that was done by Chris Claremont writing, and Frank Miller was on pencils at the time. Forget about it. This is when that first volume came out, long before he ever went to Madripoor, and this was issue 2, had just dropped this month. Man, those comics are worth a lot of money today. And Thor, number 324, came out. Doug Munch was writing that, and it's kind of important-ish, but Graviton had just attacked a mall, a Bloomingdale's, more specifically. Yeah, Bloomingdale's, who? Anyway, he was looking for a wife. That's how lousy some of these stories were at the time in many regards. But yeah, Thor had to stop him. Now, several key things at this. Thor is in this comic, and so is the Hulk. Now, Thor, for his part, this is back during the time when if he was more than 60 seconds away from his hammer, he would actually lose the enchantment, and he would revert back to Donald Blake. And the Hulk during this particular time, now that, mind you, would change in the Walt Simonson run, his very second issue of him soloing this. That would actually change in issue number 338. This was the second appearance of Beta Ray Thor, Beta Ray Bill. Anyway, but the enchantment was still on at this point. From the first issue that came in was that Journey into Mystery, issue number 82, I think it was. But all that time. And Hulk, for his part, this is one of those many times when he had the brain of Bruce Banner inside of the Hulk's body. He was still subject to rage, but yeah, he was still a thinking man's Hulk. Just not quite the Professor Hulk. This is long before. This is actually a little over a decade before that would happen. All right, so no, about a decade before. Anyway, so those are the issues that are out at about this time. Now, this is also right in between Marvel 2-in-1 issues number 95 and 96. That's when the annual issue number 7 came out. That was the final annual that would come out. But so it was right in between those. In the previous issue, he had just teamed up with the Living Mummy. And yeah, and in the next issue, we're actually going to get to the next issue. All right, we're going to get to the next issue and what he did there because it's actually kind of important. All right, so basically we start off. Oh yeah, Tom DeFalco is doing the script, the writing, but it just calls it script, and Ron Wilson does the pencils in this. All right, so getting right into the story itself, I'm going to hold on to this just in case I need to refer. We start off in the art studios of Alicia Masterson. Alicia Masters. She is the daughter of the puppet master. He's a character who makes the clay, the radioactive clay, and then he can control anybody who he makes in the image of this clay. He makes the clay in the image of that person anyway, and she's just doing a sculpt of Ben Grimm. He's her favorite person to sculpt. You know, he's already made of stone, for crying out loud. So she always did some sculpting of him and sold it for big money. He was popular, right? And he's in this really weird pose. It's basically a Kirby pose. He's like, my leg is cramping. This sucks. I'm going to stop. She's like, don't you dare. Don't you dare. All right, I'm almost done. So, you know, they were actually dating. They had a really good relationship. It was actually a really nice relationship. And yeah, all that good stuff. And all of a sudden there's this bright light, all right? Remember that scene from the Terminator? And did you see a real bright light? So this bright light, of course, Alicia doesn't see it, but she hears a noise, and Ben Grimm goes flying back, crashes into a wall and all that. Now this dude shows up. His name is Prosia. This is, I believe, actually the only appearance that we ever see of Prosia. He's basically just some schmuck with 4 arms who he looks kind of like a poor man's spider. And he shows up and he says, listen, I represent this dude called the Champion of the Universe, all right? And this guy, he's giving you an awfully big opportunity here, buddy, all right? He says to Ben Grimm, he says, he's offering you a chance to represent your world in a boxing match. It's like a boxing match. Now, this is where I'm going to get into a little bit of detail. Now, don't forget to check out my Champion Explained in a Minute. For the real nitty-gritty details, but in general, the overarching takes longer than a minute to explain stuff. The Champion is an elder of the universe, all right, and he uses the power primordial, that is, that radiation that still exists around us, believe it or not, from the Big Bang, the residual, you know? So that's the power that he uses. Very different from the power cosmic, not nearly as powerful as the power cosmic. Just make no mistake about that. But it's a lot more power on average than what we've got here on Earth, you know? So, yeah, he says, listen, this guy, the Champion, well, he doesn't say this, but the Champion himself, what he does is he goes around to different worlds in the universe, and he will study the fighting styles of the individual planets, find out what is the most popular of them, and then study and master that fighting style. Then he will find the most prominent people who are the master of that fighting style, and or just at least their biggest champions, and he will beat them using their own style against them, the Earth, you know, the planet's main fighting style against them, you know, hand to hand. So interesting. Now, also, you're going to see later on when I'm doing the Thanos quest, whatever, that he is the possessor of the Power Stone, the Power Gem. Now, you don't get to see the Power Gem in this, but understand that he does have the Power Gem, but this is in retrospect, all right? Trichoceladurus, that's the Champion's real name. We don't get that here. That's much later on. We'll know his name. But he does possess the Power Gem in retrograde, all right? In retcon, soft retcon, he does have the Power Gem during this time. That's one of the reasons why he is as powerful as he is. But whatever, even if he didn't, he's still good enough to be this powerful. This level of power, absolutely. But yeah, regardless. So, but it has been said that yes, he did have it. We just didn't see it. So if they ever redrew it, that would be the one change they do. They'd put on his forehead. Okay, so the thing is basically saying, because Alicia Masters is telling him, no, don't do it. So Ben's like, listen, as much as I love this offer, I would love to do it, but I can't do it. Now Prosia's like, Ben Grimm, I know about you, and I know that you have a fighter spirit. You sure? He's like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. He's like, all right, fine, so be it. I believe you Earth beings like to end with a handshake. And he tricks him. As soon as he touches hands, boom, he teleports away. Now, at this point, we see that he goes and he grabs a couple other people. We see he grabs Thor. Okay, Thor again. He has Donald Blake, and he hits his little walking stick on the ground, and it turns into Mjolnir, and he turns into Thor. So he's flying around. He's like, oh, hey, boom, you're coming with me. And he goes to Doc Samson also. Doc Samson is a Hulk villain. Much later on, he'd be a Hulk villain. He'd be pretty cool. He's much cooler as a villain than he is as a hero, but whatever. And that's debatable, my opinions. So he goes and grabs him. He's actually a psychologist. He's a very down-to-earth, peaceful dude. He's like, come on, you're gonna come and you're gonna fight for your planet, your planet's survival, so to speak. Realistically, it's your planet's honor. All right, the Earth was never actually in direct threat. There was an indirect threat made, but nothing like if you do not cooperate, we're going to blow up your planet. No, that never actually happened here. So Thor and Doc Samson are collected. So is the Hulk. You knew it had to be the Hulk. Colossus from the X-Men, Submariner, Namor, Prince of Atlantis, Wonder Man shows up. That's Simon Williams. Sasquatch from the Alpha Flight. Now, Proja also jumps over to the Vision and the Scarlet Witch. Now, this is funny because he walks the Vision. He walks through a wall. This is around the time in the Avengers when they took a break. They took a little hiatus from the team so they could try and work on their relationship, their marriage, and all that good stuff. So they show Vision walking in through a wall into the room that Scarlet Witch is in. She's like, you should never, walk in on me like that. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to startle you. She's like, it would take much more than that to startle the Scarlet Witch. So Proja appears, and right away, the first scene we get in the panel, Scarlet Witch is startled. Oh, gotcha. So that's all it took. So, yeah. And what's funny here also is that this is an annual issue. This is something that we're expecting that not a lot of people are going to be picking up and whatnot. But, and every single character who is in here either states his or her own name or someone else calls that person by their name. So even like Wolverine, you'd figure everybody knows who Wolverine is, right? Nope, not good enough. They state, and Wolverine was only around for 4 years at this point? No, whatever. Couple of years, about a half dozen years. So he is still fairly new at this point. Sprite had just joined the team not too long ago. That's Kitty Pryde, long before she got the name Shadowcat. So Scarlet Witch and Vision are there what's going on? And Proja says, oh, you've been invited, Vision. And Vision's like, wait, me? I've been invited to something? He's like, oh, wait a second. You're not actually human. You're a synthezoid creature man thing. Okay, sorry. The champion, the boss, he said he only wants people who are like him, meaning actually living. You're not fully in that qualification, so sorry, you're being disqualified on sight. So he goes to leave. Just as he does leave, Scarlet Witch is like, with her hex bolt and misses him completely. But it's like, man, you're so violent. So, yeah, Vision was supposed to be in this, but he was disqualified for not actually being human. Go figure. Racists. So, robotist? Is that a word? So we now switch over to these guys are in a training room. All right, all these guys who've been captured. We're talking about Thing, Thor, Doc Samson, Hulk, Colossus, Submariner, Wonder Man, and Sasquatch. They're all inside this huge training room, and they can train on their strength and their boxing and all this other crazy stuff. And they're talking what's going on. And of course, they're calling each other by their names so that we know who they all are. And during this, all of a sudden, the champion appears. Now he slowly teleports himself in. And this is kind of interesting because later on in the Thanos quest, you'll realize that he can't teleport what's going on, or he can't teleport long distances, something to that effect. He doesn't have movement abilities like all the other guys do. He doesn't actually have movement like transitioning from one part of space to another. He doesn't have any of those kinds of abilities. But here he's showing that he does, and multiple times. So, continuity issue. Not reading the only other book he was ever really in before Thanos Quest came out. So, anyway, he just kind of shows up and he's like, hey, you guys have a chance to, this is what I do. I go around, I defeat people like you. So now I'm here at your world, and you have the great honor of facing me, the champion of the universe. And the name of this book is They Shall Call Him Champion, the subtitle of this book. They shall call him champion. So they're all just like, what? Now, this is where you wind up getting some really cool, but if you're really into the art here, you get some of the coolest poses ever, right? Namor, Thor, and Hulk, you get some of their coolest ever poses. And as they're getting ready to attack the champion. Now, they all try to dogpile him at the same time. Unfortunately, he uses the Power Primordial and just, boom, makes them all go away. Now, the Power Primordial, as you will learn in the Explained in a Minute, is something that only the Eternals can actually use. And it's one of the reasons why, what's-his-face, Ego, the Living Planet, isn't actually an Elder of the Universe. But he is considered an honorary member. He can't use the Power Primordial. He was not one of the original beings that was created in the early expansion, whatever, like not too long after the Big Bang. And he is not the last of his race. He's the only of his species. So, yeah, he's a member by default because the other elders happen to need his help. And he's a lot more powerful than they are. Just saying. So anyway, he uses the Power Primordial. Boom. Just kind of shrugs them all off. And I'm like, wow, he really is powerful. Now, mind you, the champion is like 9'2". He is huge, all right? He weighs about a ton. He's gigantic. I mean, as it stands, Sasquatch is head and shoulders over top of the Hulk, whose head and shoulders or head and half shoulders over everybody else, Ben Grimm is only like 6 feet tall, So seeing the champion who comes in at more than 3 feet taller than him, like he looks down at the Sasquatch, which is a big deal, really big deal. He's huge, this gigantic powerhouse with his bright red leotard pants. Dear God, help me. Anyway, eventually they would change that, right? No, they won't. So he basically says, listen, you guys are going to fight for the sake of, all right? Namor tried to escape at one point and realized that they were in the dead void of space. Like, literally, there are no stars or anything. It's like a pocket dimension. So he's like, okay, so we're kind of stuck here. Good to know. And they didn't die when he burst through the freaking hole in the wall, so it's self-contained. Now, at this point, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and the Avengers show up, and they're all basically trying to rescue these guys, just not in the traditional sense, or maybe it was a little bit too traditional. It's hard to say. The word goes out that these guys are all going to be fighting in Madison Square Garden, all right, so that all the world can see on closed circuit television, that's actually what the first WrestleMania was broadcast on. Before I went to like HBO, and the second was it HBO or Showtime, whatever. WrestleMania 2 was broadcast there. That was King Kong Bundy and the Hulk. So I got to watch that. I think that was on Showtime that I watched that. But the first one, it was just on closed circuit TV. That was a very special kind of way to watch it. You actually had to buy into it specifically. It was actually essentially the birth of pay-per-view. It wasn't the first pay-per-view that went out, but it was the biggest thing that ever went out on pay-per-view. And it really gave it its name. Yeah. So, anyway, so when, so these guys are basically being told, listen, you are all going to fight for us, and the humans of the world get to bet on it and get to come and witness and see me defeat all of you guys. All right. You'll have the honor of fighting me. And that's really all that this was. But at the same time, they also realized how powerful he was. And there was the insinuation given, if you guys are really this weak, maybe my brethren will have to come down here and we'll have to destroy you. Now, it was never necessarily announced that he was an elder of the universe, even though elders had existed at this point. We're talking the Collector for one and the Grandmaster for another. Those were the two major elder of the universe appearances. So this was something a little bit different that they retconned in to make them all part of this team, this brotherhood. So they all decide, listen, we got to train up and we got to get stronger. We got to get better. Now, at one point, everybody's doing what they're doing. Sasquatch is mostly concerned with, his strength training and trying to really let go, because Walter Lankowski is his real name. He's just a scientist. You know what I'm saying? He's a really big, strong dude, but he doesn't have a whole lot of, he's got more endurance than you and me, you know? Like he's got Olympic athlete endurance, but that's it. Meanwhile, Hulk, like, won't get tired when he fights. His body actually will not produce fatigue poisons, you know? So, really big deal there. Really big difference there. But Walter Lankowski Sasquatch is actually a lot stronger than, like, let's say the Thing or even Colossus. He is immensely strong. He is legit Hulk and Wonder Man level strong. He's stronger than Namor when he's in the water. He's that strong. It's just he doesn't have the greatest endurance and he's not a known fighter. So he's going to do what he can, but he's mostly working on his strength right now, which is funny because that's going to come up a little bit later. So Doc Samson is trying to do his thing, and he just realizes that he's not cut out for this. Like, even the Machine is kicking his butt. He's immensely strong. He can go toe-to-toe with the Hulk, but the Hulk isn't a fighter. The Hulk's a brawler, but he's not a fighter. Doc Samson isn't really much of that even. He's ridiculously strong. He's got great endurance. He doesn't know how to fight, though. He's a psychologist. You know, he's a lover, not a fighter. So he actually gets disqualified because the training robot, actually jacks him up in just a couple of attacks. I think 3 max. So he's out, and they just send him back home. Yeah, you're just shamed. I swish my cape at you. If you know where that reference is, you're awesome. So at this point, we see that Namor is just standing there, and he refuses to do anything. He's like, I'm the Prince of Atlantis. I'm the King of Atlantis. Screw you, man. It's my birthright. I'm not going to be here. So they're like, okay, if you're not going to fight, you're disqualified also. So they send him back to the sea. Okay. So 2 down, and the fight didn't even start, right? So now the fight's about to start. There's this clanging and whatnot. The X-Men already come over and they try to, Cyclops tries to shoot his optic beams at this force field surrounding this ring, and Wolverine takes his claws to it. Wolverine's claws are not good against force fields, like almost any strength force field. They're just not good against that. Solid materials, flesh, metal, oh yeah, real good. Force fields, that's a completely different. It's an entirely other story in and of itself. So both of them, it's like, doesn't work, didn't make a dent. Not a dent. So like, okay, we're literally going to have to just watch this. So all the members, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, they all just come and sit down and like they bought tickets and just sit down and watch. So Thor's up first. And again, Thor has the enchantment on his hammer and on himself that if he's away from his hammer, if he's not in physical contact with his hammer for at least for 60 seconds or longer, that's it. Anything longer than 60 seconds, he turns back into Donald Blake. Now, it's okay that he's got this gigantic boxing glove on holding it. That's one thing. So it's more of just a presence thing. It could be, you know, sitting in his belt, whatever. It doesn't have to be skin-on-skin contact, but you get the gist, I imagine. So anyway, having the hammer apparently is no problem. Thor actually hits the champion in the ribs with the hammer or in the stomach, and he's, you know, oh, crap, that hurt. And he's like, okay, now prepare for this. Champion never even lays a fist on Thor. That's what's so wild about this. He steps back and he throws the hammer. Champion's like, okay, this is just a little bit beyond. Now, mind you, the rules were not established properly. The rules were assumed. So we're finding out about the rules as they're going on. So he's really finding fairly frivolous ways to exercise the goings on of this game. You know, Thor would have been an incredible challenge for this dude. But nope, he wasn't interested in that. He was more interested in the rules than anything else. And these are his rules that he didn't give to anybody. So hitting him with the hammer is one thing. Throwing the hammer is another. So he teleports the hammer away to a different dimension. Now, with all this crazy teleporting stuff he's doing, I'm going to just assume it's a part of this little techno-dome thing that he's actually using. Where's that from? Reference. So I'm assuming this is all just the technology that's there that's doing all this stuff because he can't do these powers on his own. So he teleports it away to some extra dimensional aperture. And then he realizes, I sense that this hammer is mystically bound to you. So I will not deny you that. But I am going to disassociate with you at this point. You're gone. You're disqualified. So he sends him back to fly over Chicago. Thor was actually in Chicago at that time. So, yeah, another hero down. And Thor didn't even get a single punch against him, you know? So at this point now, all of a sudden, it's the Hulk that shows up, right? Yep. Hulk shows up and he's just like, you're in for a hell of a fight now, man, because the angrier I get, the stronger I get. And he doesn't say it like, Hulk smash or anything like that, but he does, like, he just clenches his fists and the boxing gloves just shred over top of his huge ham hock hands, and he just, and this is, oh my God, this is beautiful 80s art. God, this is absolutely sexy. He just jumps forward like this, and just get the comic and check out this snap. And just, it's gorgeous. I want that hanging up on my wall, So he jumps right at him, and Champion just, again, here's another frivolous rule. He's like, yeah, you're more savage than man. This is not an honorable contest. I want actual rules to be followed, and you're a savage. So he just teleports him away. Yeah, Champion was going to get his butt handed to him. He didn't want none of that. So next up is Sasquatch. Here we actually finally get a freaking fight. Now, I mentioned that he was only doing his strength training before. He's able to dodge the first punch that Champion does. And he's like, I'm not stupid. So then he comes up behind him and grabs him. He's like, you're going to wind up getting disqualified for this hold if I were to let it happen. He turns around and just, boom, throws an elbow in his face, Already, Sasquatch is like, ow, this hurts. I say that he was training with his strength because at one point when he grabs me, he's like, okay, I can't just rely on my strength for this because this guy's actually really skilled. So, but he doesn't get to rely on anything at this point. Champion hits him with a left, knocks him up against the ropes, and he comes flying back at him, gives him another left cross, drops him, like teeth actually come out of Sasquatch's mouth. Yeah, that bad. He just drops him like stone dead. He doesn't die, but pretty much. So he's just, boom, you're gone. Up next is Colossus. Now, Colossus comes out, and he's just, he's still fairly new. You know what I'm saying? He's still fairly new at this point, and he's just like, he's love-struck with Kitty-ish. He's getting there. And he's a very young member. He's very fresh. And he's like, I always follow everybody else's lead. I guess I'll follow the people's leads here. And also, the thing, he's pretty experienced. Thor's really experienced. I'm going to follow what these guys are doing. Yeah. So, yeah, more the follower, not the leader. He puts up a fight. I wouldn't say a good fight. He puts up a fight. He gets hit in the stomach a lot, and he just can't keep liquids inside of his mouth at this point. Like he's just maybe melting internally, all that osmium, Anyway, he gets dropped. He can't get back up. He's TKO'd, knocked out. What I think would be knocked out. Up next is actually Wonder Man. Wonder Man actually does even worse in some regards. Now, they've always been trying to do this thing in the Avengers with Wonder Man that he is ridiculously strong, like Hulk level strong. And they've been doing that with his entire career, all right? Every time in the comics that you see Wonder Man, there's always the idea that he's unbelievably strong, but he holds back. Not the way that Thor holds back, all right? But rather, he holds back in the sense of he doesn't want to be a superhero. He just wants to be an actor. He's a failed businessman. He sucked at being a businessman. He just wants to be an actor and live a good, happy life like that. He doesn't want to be a superhero. Well, unfortunately, when you're that strong, you're a superhero. You're a super, whether you like it or not. So are you going to be a hero or a bum? He gets hit a couple times. He's not doing very good. He gets angry, and he actually starts ripping apart the ring. He gets disqualified for that. So they disqualified him for losing his cool and acting unprofessional, and again, a stipulation. Like, I understand. I think most people know you're not allowed to start ripping up the ring. But anyway, he gets disqualified for that. And it's just a way of showing, like, maybe he could have beaten this guy, but you're never going to see that chance. So all these guys that were brought up for this contest of champions, and only two people, Colossus and Sasquatch, not in that order, got the chance to fight this guy, like, for real. I mean, what the heck? So, a little bit disappointing. A little bit. Regardless, it is a double-sized annual issue, so it is what it is. Last up is The Thing. The Thing shows up, and everybody's like, dude, this is our last best hope. What could possibly happen to the Earth if the Thing loses? This guy could do whatever he wants to us. He knows that we're weak. He could destroy us. Why wouldn't he? So Thing gets in there, and he takes a hit right away. Right off the bat, he takes a hit. He's like, okay. He actually gets hit and knocked into the rope so hard it actually hits that force field that I was mentioning. Ropes stretch out that far, it hits the force field, and it shocks him, sends him back, lands on the ground. This is his first knockdown. All right? Now, mind you, Champion says at one point, no one has ever gone a full 2 rounds with me. No one. So in this first round, Thing gets knocked down. He gets back up. They're going at it some more, and he winds up getting knocked down again. This time, he gets uppercutted, and he flies straight up and hits the force field up top. Tries to position himself so he lands on Champion. Champion's just like, psh, he just shucks to the side, and it's like, hey, you can't see this. Like, what do you think, I'm dumb? And so he goes right through the ring and hits the ground. At this point, he's like just spitting up whatever's inside of him. He can't keep anything down at this point. He's not doing so good. So finishes the second round. So it's just like, wow, I can't believe you actually went, full 2 rounds with me. He's like, oh yeah, I got plenty more where that came from. He's like, you're tired. He's like, tired? No, you're wrong. I'm way past that. I'm getting by on my good looks and charm at this point. Ben Grimm always has something silly to say. So goes at him with another, for this other round. He gets hit so damn hard. Mind you, the ring is destroyed, all right, because he went through the ring. They had to pause to fix the ring. It wasn't nearly enough time to rest. But for the love of God, man, Thing gets hit so many times, so often. It's insane. It's insane. All right. At one point, he's just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do about this anymore. I'm talking about the Thing in this particular instance. He doesn't even know what to do anymore at this point, but he's still fighting back. At one point, he gives a left hook so hard to, a left body blow to the Champion so hard, he's like, you actually broke some of my ribs. Holy crap. I don't think that's ever happened before. But still, it's not enough. He must be left-handed because he keeps on getting these killer left hands on everybody. He gets this left-hand thing. Thing just can't get back up. He can't. Like, he's hurting. But somehow, just he's bleeding. He's like actually bleeding all over the place from his mouth and everything. And his eye is swollen shut. His left eye is swollen shut, which is weird because all I see is left's coming. Where'd that right come from that swole up his eye? And he's finally able to get up, and it's like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? A third round. That's crazy. It's like, I'm gonna have to end this. And he's like, no. And he's crawling across the ring. I refuse to give up. You didn't beat me. That was just a technicality. You didn't actually beat me, and you want to beat me. So he's standing up for the end of the third round. He's like, oh man, this is awesome, but you're not going to survive the fourth round. You will die. So the referee calls the match. So now Champion wins, and he's got the big WWE Heavyweight Championship, belt and whatnot. I guess it's supposed to be a boxing belt, but whatever. He's holding up. He's like, yeah. And Thing comes walking over. No, we're not done yet. Yeah, like that. And this goes on for, there's just silence between them for a whole minute. With 60 whole seconds. They're just looking at each other. You know what I'm saying? And the audience goes silent. Like, oh my God, Ben Grimm's about to get killed. And they did a pretty good job of conveying this message. And Champion says, no, my friend, I could never beat you. He says, I've defeated, I beat you, but I could never defeat you. You know what I'm saying? Your will, your tenacity is just too great. I would never be able to truly bring you to your knees. So, although I win this match, I will forfeit my right over Earth. This was a pretty good ending for this. Now, the thing is just like, I don't know if I could stand for that. And he doesn't. He falls right forward on his face. And he's out. And all the force field goes down, all the aliens disappear, and everybody comes in, the Sasquatch and everybody else is back in the ring. Oh, hey, you're awesome. And Ben Grimm is helped up and whatnot. But Yeah, it was a bad fight for the Thing. And that's pretty much how this comic ends. It ends on that particular note of camaraderie in pugilist combat, I guess. Now, the very next issue of the Marvel 2-in-1 is actually issue number 96. Now, what happens in this one, and it's also written by Tom DeFalco, but we got different pencils at this point. DeFalco, he actually writes this story where he just got finished fighting the Champion, all right, and getting his butt handed to him. In Fantastic Four, issue number 249 and 250, Ben Grimm, the Thing, had to fight against the Gladiator. That's that giant Shi'ar dude, another Superman ripoff named Kalark, Gladiator with a big mohawk, Yeah, him. The guy who he can't be beaten. As long as his confidence is up, he can't beat him. So he gets beaten up and hurt pretty bad by him too. Now, the next issue of Marvel 2-in-1, the Thing is trying to heal up in the hospital. Right? He just had these two big battles. They reference both of them, Gladiator and Champion. And he's just trying to heal up in the hospital bed. And, he's not allowed to smoke his cigars. There's nothing good on TV. The nurses are giving him a hard time. So he can find a way to complain about, a sponge bath, for crying out loud. So that's that. That's pretty much that side of the issue. On the other side, it's called the 2-in-1, right? It's a lot more than that. It's one and everybody else. Almost everybody else in the comics who you can imagine, they're all there to try and visit the Thing. And then word gets out that the Thing is in the hospital and they can come and kill him. So the villains are coming and the superheroes get wind of this like, dude, not cool. So the heroes and the villains are fighting each other. The Mad Thinker at one point does his calculations like, with this confusion, I foresee that, my calculations state that one of the villains will be able to get in there and finish off Ben Grimm, who's helpless. He can't defend himself. Well, the person who gets in there is the Sandman. Now, that's not Neil Gaiman's creation. That's the creation Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. All right. So the Sandman, Flint Marko, he's able to get in there, and this is right around the time when he becomes a good guy. Right? All sorts of like the Thing helped him out of a tough situation, and they wound up becoming friends. And he comes in there just to thank him and say, You're kind of like somebody I look up to. You're really awesome. Sorry I fought you all those times when I was a member of the Frightful Four with the Wingless Wizard and all that stuff. And yeah, it was a really cool moment, So Mad Thinker wasn't wrong. One person was able to get in, but he didn't have malintent towards the Thing. Go figure, right? So yeah, it's cool that they actually followed up, that the Thing was actually hurt bad. Especially after, battling both of these two super heavy hitters, almost cosmic level beings. So that's really it for the story, guys. I just want to go over, again, this is Marvel 2-in-1 Annual number 7. So, yeah, really great series. This was easily the best story out of all of them. Just absolutely amazing stories in this, but this was definitely the best one of them. Again, it's the first appearance of the Champion of the Universe, Trico Slatteris. Don't forget to check out my Explained in a Minute for him, as we're building up towards getting all the characters in place to talk about the Thanos quest. Once we get all that in place, I'll continue putting out more characters explained in a minute so that it's easier to explain the Infinity Gauntlet, and we'll just keep going from that point on. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. All right, guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.